Have you ever thought about living longer? No? Hmm. Okay. Well, how about being healthier for longer? No, not that either. What's wrong with you? Kids these days. Ugh. Okay, well, how about living long enough to see the next Avatar movie or five? Well, have I got good news for you? Because there's a drug that might be able to help you with that. In the mid 20th century, some scientists were just goofing around like little goofy boys on Easter Island. Just for shits and gigs, they collected a bunch of soil samples from the island and were like, alright, just gonna keep these. After a while, though, they got bored of keeping a bunch of random soil in a freezer. So they donated the soil to a little company you might have heard of called Pfizer. Pfizer, in a masterstroke of genius, also put the soil in the freezer never to look at it again. Okay, I may be kidding about that last part. They eventually did look at it and ta-da! They found a potent antifungal compound from a bacteria in the soil called Streptomyces hygroscopicus. They named the new compound rapamycin after the native name of the island they found it on, Rapa Nui. I kind of get why they didn't call it like Easter Islandium or something like that, but wouldn't it be so cool if they did? Like, just imagine going up to someone and being like, I'm taking Easter Islandium. Yeah, I'm so high on Easter Islandium right now, bro. You gotta try this shit out, dude. Shit sounds like something from an H.P. Lovecraft story. Anyway, after a hot minute of doing pretty much nothing with rapamycin, Pfizer had another genius idea, and that was to lay off 95% of the research scientists. And the first thing to go with the scientists was, of course, their unused samples. However, there's one gigachat that stood in the way between rapamycin and its early demise, and his name was Søren Segal. Søren took all his samples of rapamycin to Princeton, where he proceeded to study the compound for a whole 20-some years, certain that it would be useful for something. And he was right. In 1999, it was approved to be used as an immunosuppressant for kidney transplant patients, out of all things. But wait, you might be asking, what does this thing even do? I'm sure glad you asked, bud. After it enters your body, rapamycin finds this protein called FKBP12 and clings onto it like a little kid on a horsey ride at a carnival. Sometimes I like to let my imagination get the better of me. Then, together in a Dragon Ball fusion with FKBP12, rapamycin blocks a complex called mTOR1 on a protein called mTOR, which, I kid you not, stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. These scientists could have called it anything else. They could have called it literally, come on, think of something. Okay, but in all seriousness, mTOR is like a really promiscuous protein. She likes to be the center of attention and to flirt with everybody. Kind of like my ex-wife Marissa. Ugh. The scope of how mTOR interacts with everything else in your body, though, is so convoluted and crazy for this video that it'd just be too much to show, honestly. So what you should know for some context, though, is that it's highly correlated with cell growth, cell survival, protein synthesis, and autophagy, which is the breakdown of protein aggregates. It's also impacted upstream by several important pathways related to growth and homeostasis, like for example the insulin growth factor pathway, and is acutely affected by environmental variance in nutrient, oxygen, and energy levels. It's for roughly these reasons that in 2006, the same year that Chasing Cars came out, the leading organization studying aging in mice, called the Interventions Testing Program, decided to try out rapamycin. And what they found out from this study was pretty cool. So even though rapamycin was started in the mice pretty late in life, around 60 human years, there were still impressive and noticeable lifespan effects. In male mice, like moi, there was a roughly 10% increase in 90th percentile lifespan, and in female mice, there was a roughly 15% increase in 90th percentile lifespan. The median lifespan data was also quite impressive. Overall, it's interpreted that if rapamycin worked as well as it did in mice and humans, the average 60-year-old male who starts rapamycin could get an extra 10 additional years in life. Are you excited yet? Well, wait, it gets better. Oh my god! Inadvertently, as it increases lifespan, it also delays many age-associated diseases and phenotypes in mice, like cancer, cognitive decline, and the buildup of unhealthy adiposity. Let's take a glance back at that cancer figure. Notice that where I've circled on the male mice survival graph, there's a period of time where the rapamycin-treated mice are fine, and the non-treated mice start dying off of cancer. By the way, something to note is that by the numbers, most old mice die of cancer. What does this tell us? Well, it means that if you're a mouse on rapamycin, you're literally aging slower than normal mice, you dirty little freak. Instead of becoming even older and grumpier in those last few years of life, you're actually having more healthy years than the average mouse. But wait, there's more. In a recent paper published by the ITP, they found that when introduced into younger mice and in combination with another drug called acarbose, rapamycin worked even better than it did in old mice with respect to lifespan. Check this shit out. As you can see, male mice who were introduced to both rapamycin and acarbose at 9 months, which is roughly 40 years of age in people, had a much more impressive median lifespan increase than just rapamycin mice alone. Females did not see much relative increase with acarbose, but it's still an impressive increase when introduced at 9 months nonetheless. Are you still not convinced rapamycin is cool? Well, honestly, fair enough. It's important to acknowledge that the specific data is only coming from mice, and mice are sufficiently different from people. However, if it makes you feel any better, the worm C. elegans and the fruit fly Drosophila melangaster also had some pretty epic lifespan effects while on rapamycin. Rapamycin is also being studied in dogs by Matt Kaberlin at the University of Washington and primates and monkeys by Adam Salmon at UT. If you have been sufficiently convinced though, I totally, absolutely, vehemently do not recommend clicking the first link in the description below. It's definitely not a website that has tons of information about the benefits of taking rapamycin and how to acquire it. Okay, I gotta go run on a wheel for 48 hours because I just drank a Red Bull. Thanks for watching!